Just as Tolkien's world has its beginning, it also has its end. And the Dark Lord who would bring discord into the world would return, seeking to bring about its final ruin. Today on Nerd of the Rings, we cover the Dagor Dagorath. Throughout Middle-earth's legends and tales, there are numerous references to the end of the world, the last battle, and the remaking of Arda. One such instance even appears in Tolkien's first book in Middle-earth, The Hobbit. As Thorin lies upon his deathbed, he says to Bilbo,
"Farewell, good thief. I go now to the halls of waiting, to sit beside my fathers, until the world is renewed."
We also find mentions of the last battle in the Silmarillion, but not until the end, when Feanor shall return. Not until the sun passes and the moon falls shall it be known of what substance the Silmarils were made. Once again, we get a reference in the Unfinished Tales chapter on the Istari, where we get the name for this apocalyptic battle. Manwë would not descend from the mountain until the Dagor Dagorath, and the coming of the end, when Melkor returns. So we have these passing references to a far-off final battle, and a remaking of the world. But what will take place at this foretold event? As with many of Tolkien's epic tales, the concept of the Battle of All Battles went through multiple revisions, and even its canonicity is a point of debate among fans. The most complete version appears in Tolkien's 1958 rewriting of the tale, in what is commonly referred to as the Later Quenta Silmarillion. This portion, also known as the Second Prophecy of Mandos, is as follows. "Thus spake Mandos in prophecy, when the gods sat in judgment in Valinor, and the rumor of his words was whispered among all the elves of the west. When the world is old and the powers grow weary, then Morgoth, seeing that the guard sleepeth, shall come back through the door of night, out of the timeless void, and destroy the sun and moon. But Eärendil shall descend upon him as a white and searing flame, and drive him from the airs. Then shall the last battle be gathered on the fields of Valinor. In that day Tulkas shall strive with Morgoth, and on his right hand shall be Eönwë, and on his left Túrin Turambar, son of Hurin, returning from the doom of men at the ending of the world. And the black sword of Túrin shall deal unto Morgoth his death and final end. And so shall the children of Hurin and all men be avenged." It's incredible imagery with some of Tolkien's most iconic heroes, and his greatest villain involved. The Valar, who like the elves are bound to the world, grow weary as the world grows old, and it is this dwindling of their power that should bring Morgoth forth to attempt his ultimate destruction. For the third time, he destroys the sources of light for Arda. First it was the two lamps, then the two trees, and now the very sun and moon. But the great Eärendil, slayer of Ancalagon the Black, who sails the skies, Silmaril upon his brow, drives Morgoth from the air. And in the end, it is Túrin Turambar, whose family had suffered perhaps greater than any other at the hands of the Dark Lord, who deals the killing blow to the Dark Tyrant. Thereafter shall earth be broken and remade, and the Silmarils shall be recovered out of air and earth and sea. For Eärendil shall descend, and surrender that flame which he hath had in keeping. Then Feanor shall take the 3 jewels, and he will break them, and with their fire Yavanna will rekindle the 2 trees, and a great light shall come forth. And the mountains of Valinor shall be leveled, so that the light shall go out over all the world. Here we see that Feanor will be given a second chance to do the honorable thing, for he had once refused the Valar the very idea of sacrificing his Silmarils to save the 2 trees. After waiting as long as any elf in the halls of Mandos, he would be re-embodied, so that with the Silmaril of the air from Eärendil, and the Silmaril cast into the sea by his son Maglor, and the Silmaril which went with Maithros into the fiery chasm, he should break his greatest creations, so that light may come yet again to Arda. The story concludes with a few sentences that Tolkien himself crossed out. While obviously not something that should be regarded as canon, it has an interesting conclusion, especially for the mortal Túrin. In that light the gods will grow young again, and the elves awake, and all their dead arise, and the purpose of Ilúvatar be fulfilled concerning them. But of men in that day the prophecy of Mandos doth not speak, and no man it names, save Túrin only, and to him a place is given among the sons of the Valar. Now, if you were to grab your copy of the Silmarillion, you would not find this account of the last battle. Christopher Tolkien decided to leave it out of the book, which was published in 1977. He made this decision based on a passage in the later Quenta Silmarillion that states, "If any change shall come, and the marring of Arda be amended, Manwë and Varda may know, but they have not revealed it, and it is not declared in the dooms of Mandos." These words close the Silmarillion itself, and Christopher interpreted them quite literally, that Mandos had no prophecy of the world being remade. Thus there would be no Dagor Dagorath. So it would seem that as far as Christopher was concerned, his father may have abandoned his plans for a last battle. However, Christopher, in his incredible work, which I will never finish singing the praises of, brought these works to the world over the course of his History of Middle-earth series. This has allowed for some great discussion on whether or not this concept should be entirely disregarded. The great Tolkien scholar Verlin Flieger says, Tolkien wrote that the legendarium ends with a vision of the end of the world. It would be strange if he had not envisioned such an end, for the mythologies on which he draws most heavily, Judeo-Christian and Norse, both included remaking and renewal in surprisingly similar terms. In her remarks, Flieger seems to be referring to Tolkien's own words from letter 131, where he summarizes his entire legendarium age by age. This legendarium ends with a vision of the end of the world, its breaking and remaking, and the recovery of the Silmarilli and the light before the sun, after a final battle. As Flieger states, it would only be natural for Tolkien's story to have an ultimate end to the mythology, and would actually be odd if it didn't have one. That being said, it's also been pointed out that this account of the Dagor Dagorath could have been a mannish legend, specifically one from the realm of Númenor. As Tolkien once said, the elves expected the end of Arda to be catastrophic. About this, they held that nothing could be known except that Ea was ultimately finite. It is noteworthy that the elves had no myths or legends dealing with the end of the world. The myth that appears at the end of the Silmarillion is of Númenorian origin. It is clearly made by men, though men acquainted with elvish tradition. While it is perhaps framed as a mannish legend within the text, there's no denying that the end of the world was something Tolkien thought about when writing Middle-earth, and certainly something his characters believed would indeed come. When he comes out of the sea from the drowning of Númenor, Eärendil states in his great oath, "In this place will I abide, and my heirs, unto the ending of the world." Galadriel's brother Finrod, in his heart-wrenching conversation with the mortal woman Andreth, drives home the sorrow of the mortality of men, and that their fate lies beyond the circles of the world. However, he seems to indicate that there indeed lies something beyond mortal death, and even the immortal lives of the elves. But you are not for Arda. Whither you go, may you find light. Await us there, my brother and me. Once again, this alludes to some grander ending for the world, one in which the children of Ilúvatar may be reunited once more. Not only this, but the dwarves foretell of the day when they would fully become children of Ilúvatar, and have a unique task after the Dagor Dagorath, and that he declared to their fathers of old that Ilúvatar would hallow them and give them a place among the children in the end. Then their part shall be to serve Aule, and to aid him in the remaking of Arda after the last battle. I love the concept of the Dagor Dagorath. not only because it brings about such incredible conclusions to the stories of characters like Túrin, Feanor, Eärendil, and Morgoth, and not because it's yet another example of Tolkien borrowing from his own faith, as well as other world mythologies, but because it adds further depth to this world. That we can not only talk about what Tolkien intended as the world's author, but also what the characters themselves believed, is a really fun way to think about this world that we love. But now I'd like to pose a question for you. In the Dagor Dagorath, will Morgoth be capable of reviving Sauron and other dark beings long defeated? We've seen even the mortal man Túrin be resurrected for this conflict. Could the fallen Maya be brought back as well? In another portion of Tolkien's text, it reads that Túrin in the last battle should return from the dead, and before he left the circles of the world forever, should challenge the great dragon of Morgoth and Calagon the Black, and deal him the death stroke. Now it should be noted this particular excerpt is likely referring to the War of Wrath at the end of the First Age, not the Dagor Dagorath at the end of the world, for this was likely an earlier account of the War of Wrath, before Eärendil replaced Túrin as the slayer of Ancalagon. Yet it's more fuel for a fun hypothetical question. Do you think that Morgoth Bauglir, the most evil presence in Arda, could not recreate but resurrect his fallen servants? As we conclude on the Dagor Dagorath, thinking on the epic moments like Morgoth re-emerging from his prison, Eärendil striking the Dark Lord from the sky, Tulkas with Eonwë and Túrin by his side, facing off against Melkor once more, and Túrin Turambar finally getting revenge for all the evil Morgoth brought upon his family and the world. We also appreciate the beauty that follows. A second Music of the Ainur, one in which the children of Ilúvatar take part. The elves and men, of course, but now also the dwarves. Together, these beings, who were all created by Eru Ilúvatar himself, now help him in remaking a world unmarred by Melkor. A world where the light of the two trees is reborn from the Silmarils, and the mountains of Valinor are leveled, so that all the world may bask in the glory of their radiant light. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters who make this channel possible. Tom de Bombadil 19, Listen Me the Cinda, Mandu Pandu, Andrew Carlisle, The Mighty Mim, Team Weasel, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Salim Rahman, Zetrock, Berto Berg, Grand Strategy Nerd, Graham Derricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Michael Wu, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description and purchase prints of their great work for yourself. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.